Our final reading comes to us from 2 Timothy. In a large house there are utensils not only for gold and silver, but also of wood and clay. Some for special use, some for ordinary. All who cleanse themselves of the things I have mentioned will become special utensils, dedicated and useful to the owner of the house, ready for every good work. Shun youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart. Have nothing to do with stupid or senseless controversies. You know that they breed quarrels. And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but kindly to everyone, an apt teacher, patient, correcting opponents with gentleness. God may perhaps grant that they will repent and come to know the truth, and that they may escape from the snare of the devil, having been held captive by him to do his will. The word of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness. Tonight's. 2 Samuel 22:36 says, your gentleness has made you great. Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. A sign of strength is the ability to know when to be extremely gentle. St. Francis de Sales wrote, nothing is so strong as gentleness. Nothing so gentle as real strength. If we have a gentle spirit, we are patient with the weaknesses of others. We are patient with the progress of others in their personal journeys. We are kind when confronting others. We are willing to reach out to those who are timid and encourage them to open up. We help heal the hurt and are a safe friend. Gentleness is a quality we also need to direct toward ourselves. Too often people are extremely harsh with themselves. It is okay to fail sometimes. While we need to hold ourselves accountable, we can do so with gentleness. The gift of gentleness gives us the strength to be a true friend, an effective leader, and a witness to the power of God in our lives. It calls us to apply the same standards. In 1625, the King of Sweden ordered 4 new ships to be built for his royal fleet, one of which was to be called the Wasa. An experienced Dutchman was hired as the chief shipwright, and he began work building the ship. The shipwright selected oak as the principal wood and issued orders for angled timbers and wood grown in special shapes. He needed these to build the ship explicitly according to the unique design the King of Sweden had given him to follow. Building the Wasa took 2 full years, for it was an enormous ship designed to carry 435 men. The Wasa was 3-masted and carried 10 sails, a total of 13,000 square feet of canvas. The ship was decorated with huge carved figures and sculptures. It was truly magnificent. On August 10th, 1628, it was set for the launching date, and hundreds of people came to witness the event. The crew carefully set 4 of the ship's sails, and the breeze caught them. Within minutes, a powerful gust of wind caused the ship to heel, to right itself, and then to heel over to port. Water rushed into the open ports of the ship, and the Wassa sank in 110 feet of water. The king was furious. He would not tolerate a mistake such as this. Whoever was guilty would be severely punished. He ordered a thorough investigation to find the worker who had caused the catastrophe. One by one, the builders and workers were interviewed and exonerated. Soon it became clear that the problem was not in the construction, but in the design of the ship. Suddenly, the investigation stopped, and nothing more was mentioned. You see, the king himself had designed the ship. The Wassa stayed underwater for 333 years. And in 1961, it was raised and placed in a special museum where visitors are told the story of the king who had one standard for others and another for himself. He could accept his own mistake, but would not tolerate those made by others. How often do we act like this king? When are we not gentle with others, as gentle as we are with ourselves? How often are we more willing to forget our own mistakes and yet refuse to forgive the mistakes of others? Jesus told in a parable in Luke 7 of a creditor who had 2 debtors. Each of them had made major miscalculations in their financial ability to repay their debts. Their creditor treated them both gently and forgave them both their debts. Now, we are called to give helpful feedback, but in a manner that does not appear to be criticism. Right? It is important to learn to speak the truth and acknowledge what it is and not criticize or blame. When we master this communication skill, we demonstrate gentleness in our relationships. This allows us to encourage small steps. Of course, I grew up with the Karate Kid, and Cobra Kai we thought had ended its reign, but now there's a movie coming out. but the Karate Kid had a wonderful message, right? An experienced teacher, Mr. Miyagi, agrees to teach karate to this teenager, Daniel. So long as Daniel does whatever Miyagi tells him to do. Mr. Miyagi insists on absolute obedience from Daniel and assigns him several tedious chores, which severely, really tests Daniel's training. Mr. Miyagi tells Daniel to wash a long row of cars, right? Specifying the circular hand motions, wax on, wax off, right? The chore takes all day. The next day, and each subsequent day, the teacher gives Daniel new tasks to perform. Sand the floor, paint the fence. Always specifying the exact hand motions to use. Each night, the boy, Daniel, was exhausted. Now, Daniel becomes disappointed that he is entered into indentured servitude and really isn't getting karate lessons. And he asked his teacher, when is my lesson going to begin because I quit? And Mr. Miyagi smiles and tells Daniel to make the appropriate hand motions, right? Wax on, paint fence, sand the floor, wax on, wax off, paint fence. Daniel does this as Mr. Miyagi punches at him. And he sees that he has been learning karate all these days. This long, tedious hours of small steps strengthens the student so that he is able to master the techniques, right? The gentleness of not just pouring everything on Daniel from the very beginning, allowing him to come to realization on his own of what he has truly learned. Now, most of learning in life follows this similar pattern. We don't learn difficult skills all at once. We must be patient with the process and patient with ourselves if we are to learn. And when we are functioning as a teacher, we must be gentle with those who are learning. Think back to the many skills you have learned. Didn't you learn them the best with small, gentle steps? Didn't it take time? Isaiah writes about teaching when he says, precept by precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. We need to learn to be patient and gentle with the process of personal and spiritual growth because we grow step by step. So we have to learn many times to let go of our anger. We've continued to discuss this in our book study recently as we've been wrestling with forgiveness. The need to let go of our anger, that anger influences the many things that we do in life. So that ability to release and be gentle and not be vengeful, not be vindictive, not demand the justice that we desire, but to be gentle as God is gentle with us. As parents, we can learn that children are tender and bruise easy, right? But so do adults. So we are called to come alongside people gently. At the turn of the century, an orphan girl named Annie lived in a basement room of a state institution for the poor, sick, developmentally disabled, and the mentally ill. Although most of the staff treated the girl as if she were incorrigible because she was noisy and disobedient, one nurse thought little Annie was intelligent and had potential. The nurse decided to sit outside of Annie's room to eat lunch every day. Some days the nurse talked to Annie, and some days the nurse was just compassionately quiet and listened. Either way, she was a gentle presence for Annie. For weeks, little Annie made no positive response to the nurse's presence. And one day, the nurse left a brownie for her. And later, the brownie was gone. And after months of quietly eating lunch beside little Annie and gently allowing Annie to get used to her, the nurse saw a subtle change in the girl. And they began communicating. Sometimes they laughed together, sometimes they talked quietly. And they became friends, and Annie learned from the nurse. And then one day, Annie moves upstairs to live with the more well-behaved residents, and she continued to make remarkable developmental progress as she studied hard doing her schoolwork. When Annie turned 18, she was allowed to leave the institution and go out on her own. She stated she wanted to someday work with those less fortunate than herself. Annie had a purpose in life because a nurse had cared enough to come alongside of her gently. Little Annie was Ann Sullivan, the teacher who comes alongside Helen Keller. And when Helen Keller received one of England's highest honors, she said she owed it all to her teacher, Ann Sullivan. The world is a better place because Helen Keller has shared with us the miracle of her incredible experience, having grown up blind and deaf. Helen felt indebted to Ann, who came and gently walked beside her until she could show her a way out of her personal darkness. And Ann felt gratitude to the nurse who came to her and gently made contact. And that nurse owed who knows who. The power of gently comforting another person is never to be underestimated. So we are called to love gently. Being gentle is an act of love. This gentle, nurturing one for another is a godly characteristic. So we're called not to wound one another, but to enjoy this gift of the Spirit. Okay? Most people are wounded by harsh words. Human beings need a gentle touch. So remember not to wound the spirit of those with whom you interact, but be gentle with them in word and in action. So we are called to know when to listen. The gift of gentleness is truly needed in many of our relationships, and it is a great value. James wrote, "Let everyone be quick to hear and slow to speak." The first step to gentleness is patience, which is love, joy, peace, patience, the fourth of these fruit of the Spirit. We are called to be patient with one another. We need to resist the temptation to just run people over with our actions and more with our words. This is the lesson of the King of Sweden. It's the lesson of the golden rule, do unto others. We are called to treat each other with gentleness. Gentleness is like a pear. It bruises easy, it is soft. The fruit on the inside is mushy, right? And easy to chew. We are called to be gentle with others, so to not bruise them with words or deeds. We are called to treat people with care and compassion, right? To carefully handle each other, right? To be careful not to bruise. This is who we are. We are pears who treat each other gently. So hold your nail. We need handled gently because God handles us that way. Our spiritual gifts lead us to peace so that we can treat others gently. God is patient with us. God could destroy us all for how we act, and rightly so. But God is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love for us. And God treats us as God would have us treat God, forgiving and forgetting. God listens intently to our every word, to our every deed, to our every thought, to our every prayer. And God places us first, thinking about us. Because God loved us so much that God sent a Son, that all may be handled gently now and forever. You see, God holds us like a peach, softly, tenderly,